Exposed: How unqualified truck drivers are slipping through Canada's licensing system. Welcome back to Canada Chronicles. Today, we're uncovering a transportation safety story that's shaking Canada's trucking industry. Investigations in Ontario and Alberta have revealed how weak oversight, dishonest testing, and fraudulent training allowed some unqualified drivers to hold commercial licenses, putting public safety at risk. Stay tuned until the end, because we'll reveal, retest or lose it, how Ontario is forcing thousands to prove their licenses again. It's a government action that could redefine how commercial drivers across Canada are certified. If you care about road safety, fair employment, and accountability in transportation, this is a story you need to hear. Every day, tens of thousands of heavy trucks move across Canada's highways, carrying the goods that keep our economy alive: fuel, groceries, medical supplies, and construction materials. Yet the trust Canadians place in those behind the wheel has been shaken. Regulators are now asking, how did people who never met testing standards end up driving the country's biggest vehicles? This investigation reaches beyond trucking. It touches on public safety, government oversight, and the human cost of cutting corners. So grab a seat, make sure you're subscribed, and turn on notifications, because what you're about to learn could change how Canada handles commercial licensing forever. Let's get started. The problem: license integrity gaps and public safety at risk. Provincial regulators have discovered major cracks in the system that is supposed to keep Canada's roads safe. In Ontario, the Ministry of Transportation suspended certain Class A licenses found to be obtained dishonestly and ordered affected drivers to retest after an audit revealed improper testing at a DriveTest provider. Meanwhile, in Alberta, the government revoked the accreditation of 5 commercial driver training schools, removed 13 trucking companies from service, and revoked a dozen instructor licenses. Officials said these moves were necessary to restore integrity and protect the public from unsafe operations. Although these actions are province-specific, they highlight a broader weakness in Canada's licensing structure, one that stretches from initial training to ongoing compliance. How the loopholes worked. Audit failures and irregular testing. Ontario's audit showed that some written and road tests were not conducted according to provincial standards. Dozens of drivers were ordered to retake their exams within strict deadlines: 60 days for the vision and knowledge tests and 120 days for the road test, or face a license downgrade. Bribery and shortcut training. A hidden camera CBC Marketplace investigation exposed instructors at certain private schools offering guaranteed passes for cash. This prompted the province to tighten supervision of test centers and to warn that any future violations could end service contracts altogether. Chameleon carriers and license mills. In Alberta, enforcement officers uncovered so-called chameleon carriers, companies that repeatedly changed names or business addresses to escape inspection histories. Some had minimal operations, yet presented themselves as legitimate trucking firms, allowing questionable licensing practices to continue undetected. Misclassification in the driver incorporated model. The Alberta crackdown also revealed widespread misclassification, where drivers were registered as independent corporations instead of employees. This tactic lets some carriers avoid taxes, workers' comp coverage, and certain training obligations, eroding accountability and safety compliance. Together, these loopholes created an environment where even a small number of dishonest actors could undermine the entire licensing framework. Why it matters beyond individual cases. Road safety. A fully loaded tractor-trailer can weigh more than 35 tons and requires immense skill to control, especially in snow, ice, or steep-grade conditions. When drivers aren't properly trained, braking distances lengthen, reaction times slow, and everyone on the road is put at greater risk. Industry reputation and costs. Fraudulent licenses don't just endanger motorists, they damage the reputation of every professional driver who earned credentials honestly. Carriers with unqualified drivers face higher insurance premiums, potential lawsuits, and canceled contracts. Even one revoked license can cause ripple effects through entire logistics chains. Labor dependence. Canada's major industries, construction, agriculture, food distribution, retail, and manufacturing, all rely on trucking to move goods coast to coast. Many fleets hire both temporary foreign workers and permanent residents to meet labor shortages. When unverified licenses are suspended, or when a company is delisted, those supply chains slow down, creating costly bottlenecks that ultimately affect consumers. What authorities are doing now. In Ontario, the Ministry of Transportation is retesting affected Class A and Z drivers and emphasizing zero tolerance for fraudulent licensing. Surprise audits and field inspections are being expanded to ensure test consistency across the province. In Alberta, the government's enforcement blitz permanently shut down unsafe training schools, revoked instructor licenses, and delisted carriers that failed to comply with safety standards. Inspectors are also tracking misclassification and monitoring companies that attempt to rebrand under new names. Industry associations such as the Ontario Trucking Association and the Canadian Trucking Alliance are pressing all provinces to adopt unified testing standards, increase school oversight, and build better reporting systems for suspicious activity. Their collective message, the future of Canada's trucking reputation, depends on integrity, not volume. Thanks for staying with us this far. We appreciate your time and hope you're finding this information valuable. Retest or lose it: how Ontario is forcing thousands to prove their licenses again. In July 2025, Ontario mailed official notices to selected Class A and Z drivers connected to an audited testing provider. The message was direct: retest or be downgraded. Each driver was given 60 days to complete vision and knowledge tests and 120 days to complete the road test. Anyone who failed or missed the deadline would see their license automatically reduced to the next eligible class. This enforcement doesn't label all recipients as cheaters. Instead, it reflects the province's inability to confirm that previous tests were conducted properly. In short, Ontario is revalidating competence to protect public safety. The exact number of drivers affected hasn't been disclosed, but industry insiders believe it could reach into the hundreds. For many, the requalification process adds significant financial pressure, fees for testing, fuel, and vehicle rental. For employers, it creates operational uncertainty and potential driver shortages. Yet officials maintain that trust in the licensing system is non-negotiable. If the government cannot verify how a license was earned, the holder must prove their ability behind the wheel again. This large-scale verification effort marks one of the most aggressive accountability moves in recent transportation history, sending a clear warning that integrity in testing is just as important as passing it. A practical roadmap for reform. 1. Create shared national standards and data systems. Provinces should agree on consistent minimum standards for driver training, testing, and auditing. A national database tracking training school credentials, examiner records, and carrier safety histories would help identify repeat offenders quickly. 2. Conduct independent and surprise audits. Regular third-party audits, unaffiliated with the schools themselves, would ensure that testing follows proper procedures. Ontario's experience proves how one compromised testing provider can jeopardize public confidence. 3. Encourage protected reporting. Instructors, examiners, and students must have safe channels to report bribery or negligence without fear of reprisal. Confidential whistleblower systems can expose fraud before it endangers the public. 4. Introduce periodic recertification. Commercial licenses could require renewal exams every 5 to 10 years, similar to professional certifications in other industries. Periodic testing keeps skills sharp and prevents complacency. 5. Impose targeted penalties. Fraudulent schools, dishonest examiners, and non-compliant carriers should face decisive consequences: fines, license revocation, and permanent disqualification from future operations. Alberta's 2025 enforcement demonstrates this deterrent works. 6. Support legitimate drivers. Drivers who were victims of weak oversight but wish to comply should receive access to subsidized retraining, language support, and fair testing opportunities. The goal is to elevate standards, not punish honest workers. 7. Promote transparency and public accountability. Governments should publish annual reports summarizing how many licenses were audited, retested, or revoked. Public visibility keeps both regulators and training institutions accountable. Canada's commercial licensing problem isn't universal, but where it exists, it's serious. The decisive enforcement in Ontario and Alberta shows that when regulators act decisively, they can close loopholes and rebuild public confidence. These actions are about one thing: keeping Canadians safe on the road. If provinces continue auditing transparently, share data effectively, and protect hardworking, law-abiding drivers, Canada can restore full trust in its trucking system and make sure every professional behind the wheel truly earns that title. If you found this breakdown valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more verified stories about Canada's transportation, labor, and immigration systems. Share this video to spread facts, not rumors, and keep safety in the driver's seat. This is Canada Chronicles, where facts drive the story. See you in the next video.